All right. We are up live. Let me see. Hold on a second here. I got to stop that for a second. Hold on. Restream. Where's my restream? There we go. Update titles. And clear.
All good. I've got it's the same live streaming over this side, so it looks like something.
Yeah, but the problem is I had to take it down real quick because the titles weren't updating for some reason, and it had Dave's name still in there from yesterday. So
Mr. Meltzer, yeah,
that doesn't look like Dave.
No, good old Dave. We love Dave.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put your name in there for now, and I'll update the title description later. That's fine. There we go. All right, we're good.
Sure,
we're good now. All right, let me reboot that up. Yeah, you know, the funny thing is the stuff that you brought up about your podcast and the scale up and the marathon running is what I picked out of the bio. So
that's all right. Don't worry. There's other stuff we can get into, man.
I'll dig deep. Don't worry. All right, we got him up now. All right, so then let me get the Zoom recording, and we'll roll. Record on this computer. Welcome back to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy Mike C-Roc. Hey guys, I'm so excited to have you here listening or watching on Facebook, YouTube, or listening on the podcast. I have a guest today that has some pretty awesome accomplishments, and we're going to dig deep into what he's made of. But before I do that, I want to thank all of you for all of your support from the What Are You Made Of movement, the Waymo movement. I can't do what my mission is without you guys, and I'm trying to impact millions of people, and I need millions of people to help me do that. So first of all, I want to thank all of you for that. Our guest today, Nick Bradley, is a world-renowned business growth and scale-up specialist who helps exceptional business leaders unlock their full potential. He is the host of the UK's #1 business podcast on iTunes and Spotify, Scale Up Your Business, it's called, which has achieved over 100,000 downloads in 130 countries in less than 12 months since the launch. Now, we got to ask some questions about that because that's awesome. Cool. Originally from Australia, Nick is a dedicated family man who has a strong background in physical fitness, having completed, here we go, 67 marathons and not... to top it off, 24 ultra marathons worldwide. He is also a qualified personal trainer and performance coach. He is absolutely committed to personal growth and becoming the best version of himself and inspiring others to achieve the same. His mission is to help bring an entrepreneurial skill set and mindset to people all over the world as a driving force of progression and prosperity. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Hey, see, you've covered everything. We don't need to talk anymore.
Yeah, I thought you might be Dave Meltzer, actually. we had a little
similar
little jam up in the beginning. I apologize for that. But Nick, listen, the show's theme is what are you made of? Talking about setbacks and turning them into rocket fuel for your future. So the question that I'm going to have for you to start with is, what are you made of?
Yeah, okay, great thing. So let me tell you the journey in the story. So I had a full-on career in private equity. For your listeners who don't know what that is, it's going in and buying businesses, turning them around and selling them for a lot more money. Did that for ages, made a lot of cash myself, had the big house, the nice cars. And then I had a massive breakdown, and I'll explain the kind of situation. So I went to bed one night, and I woke up about 2 a.m, and I literally cracked all of the teeth down the right side of my jaw. Like literally the whole thing was swollen. It was like I was punched in the face, man. Right. And what had happened is I was working on a big deal, we're talking business deals off, hundreds of millions of dollars. And I was getting super stressed about the whole thing. I was kind of not really living my purpose. I wasn't living my values. I was out there chasing money. It was all about me. It wasn't about making a difference to anybody else. And you know what? Your body catches up with you, right? You get stressed. And so I woke up the next day. I went to the doctor first, then I went to the dentist. The dentist said to me, you know what? You've just basically cracked all of your teeth because, you're stressed, you're burnt out, you're worn out. And so
from really squeezing and grinding your teeth,
grinding,
like with stress and
stuff. Yeah, grinding. Wow, but listen, this is one, you know how things compound, right? They kind of hit you at one point, and there's one point where you make a decision, and that decision changes everything. And that was my night, right? I spoke to my wife. she said, you've got to change everything I've been doing for the last sort of 15, 20 years. You've got to change it. And so I went away for a while. I kind of did a whole heap of self-discovery, self-reflection, connected with some people I hadn't connected with for some time. And I just recreated my life. So in answer to your question, what am I made of? I am now made of growth, contribution, making a bigger impact on the world, living my true purpose, inspiring others. I do it through business. But you know what? Before that, I was nothing like that. As I said, it was all about me. So for me, it's a story of transformation, man, and it's a story of finding who I really am.
Now, when you're doing it for the wrong reasons, so I talk about this a lot with companies that don't have culture, and they didn't establish a foundation of culture. And you can go and make money and have some success, but it'll always crumble on you if you don't have culture and you don't have your culture right. Everybody has culture; it's about the right culture. So is that what you're basically talking about when you have that situation? It was a lack of individual culture or lack of individual
Yeah,
standards and purpose, right?
I call it standards, values, and beliefs, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing that underpins it. You know, there's a point where if you haven't got those foundations in place,
Right,
then, you know, everything you build above that is not going to be sustainable.
right, right. Yeah. So, and then from that point though, how long did it take you to really get on a new course?
Well, you know, here's the thing, right? So what I did is I called up a mate of mine, and he was a guy who was a bit out there and a bit strange when I was at university back in Australia. And he retired very early. He retired in his late 20s. He made 65 million Australian dollars selling his first business. So, you know, successful guy. Now he goes around the world speaking and doing cool stuff. Anyway, he said to me, he said, Nick, you've got to get yourself to a Tony Robbins event, right? He said, and I'm like, man, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? But, you know, when you get to a point of despair, and I was like, I need an answer, I thought, you know what? I've been reading these guys' books for years, but I never took any action. So what I did is I found the next event that was coming up, which was in Chicago. I jumped on a plane from the UK, spent 3 days crying my eyes out at this bloody event, partly because for the first time I slowed down and I started to understand what I was thinking. And I made the decision then to change everything. I didn't act on the decision straight away. I didn't suddenly come back and just burn the boat, to use that expression.
Right.
But I made the decision that things had to spend a bit of time executing, you know, making all those things happen.
And so I've been to a lot of the events, and a lot of times you go and what do they call that? Like a short burst of passion or something, and then it wears off. What did you do differently than a lot of people when you went to a Tony event that kept you going and made it stick, so to speak?
Yeah, because you see that. You see people who go to these events and they become junkies of these events, and, you know, no judgment to that. But I think, you know, for me, I didn't need a lot to push me to take the decisions I needed to make. I just needed some answers. Right. And you know, if I go back even further, you know, I had a really strong corporate career. Then I had the private equity career. I was a board director of a Fortune 500 company before I was 30, a CEO of private equity businesses before 40, right? And I was following this path, but I didn't know why I was doing it. And every time I achieved something, I never stopped to celebrate it, right? And it was all about, what am I chasing here? So what happened is I went away to the event and I got the answer. And the answer for me was really quite straightforward. It was, you know what, you are too focused on yourself, and I need to be focused on others. I need to make a wider contribution. And I never really understood that. So I changed one belief system, the idea that if I help people without expectation, I'll have everything that I want and need in life. And I didn't live like that before. And because that cog, if you like, slipped in my mind, when I came back, I didn't need any more motivation. I just needed to take action.
And then how, again, money's important. Obviously, it can't be your main driving force, but how soon did you start to be able to monetize and be able to make a living though, doing what you're talking about? Because that's what first question a lot of people have is, you know.
Yeah. It took 18 months, not necessarily to make money, but a lot of things fell into place. So this is kind of serendipitous and a bit weird. And, you know, it depends what your beliefs are on this, but sometimes I think when you follow the path, certain doors open. And it may be the fact that those doors were always there, but you never saw them before. You had the opportunity. So what happened for me is I came back. I still had the day job, if you like. I was still doing all the private equity stuff. I got some mentors, got some coaches. I got some people who were a few steps ahead of me in areas of business that I wanted to develop. I started my podcast that went to #1 within 3 months in the UK, went through the roof for various reasons, which I can explain. And then that gave me the catalyst to keep going. So I had momentum. And then off the back of that, I've now got 7 separate businesses. And all of them have come from building a strong personal brand. But it's not just that, it's actually operating with authenticity, because the stuff that I try and help people, I genuinely am out there trying to change their journey and their trajectory with their business and their life. Right. Because I'm doing that, I'm getting so much back commercially, as well as kind of how I feel about myself and what I'm doing.
Yeah. Outflow into the universe with that purpose will always turn up something positive. I mean, it's just, it's almost a natural law.
So many people don't get that though. And this is, I mean, I didn't get it right. I kind of, for me, it was about take. I got to consume, not create. And so it was a bit of an unusual paradigm. I'd never been taught that, but obviously it makes a lot of sense when you experience it, but you have to go through that.
Now, when you got the podcast set up, when I did it, and I'm transparent as hell, I'll just tell people like it is. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I appeared on a buddy of mine's podcast. He said, "You want to come on?" I'm like, "Sure." Chris Donaldson, shout out to Chris Donaldson. And I got on there and I'm like, "This is fun, man. I'm enjoying this." So then I figured out, okay, I don't know how to do it. I'm just going to find someone that knows how to do it. I'm going to pay them to take care of it for me. And I'm just going to perform on the show and record it. So
That's
how did you,
That's
is
what I did.
Is that what you did?
So there's a guy in the UK, a guy called Rob Moore. Shout out to Rob Moore. He's got one of the most successful podcasts here. He's been doing it for 5 years, right? But he's had million loads. But I got him as a mentor, and he basically said, "Okay, this is how you do it." He even helped me with the name, all that sort of stuff. And then what I did is I signed up to. He's got an agency as well, which does just the production. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to remove all friction. All I want to do is have fun and interesting conversations with amazing people, right? Put value out into the world, and just focus on that, right? And so everything else I wanted to outsource. So that's exactly what I did, and that definitely helped, because it's a consistent thing. You've got to be consistent at this to be good, right? So you don't want to have things that slow you down.
Now, did you start like a weekly podcast, or was it daily, or?
Yeah. Now, and then off the back of that, started building a much bigger kind of social media presence. And now there's different channels going on. So there's YouTube channels similar to what you're doing, I'm sure, C-Roc.
Yeah.
But it started off with being very focused on one platform, which was the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. I really still don't, I mean, I'm just going like crazy. Like the only way I know how to do anything is just go all out and then let the rest like just happen. And then I learn as I go. So I don't know any other way to do it, besides that. So is that what's the secret behind getting so many downloads so quickly?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that I've learned through the process, and there's a little bit of kind of the whole, how do you scale up your podcast as much as there are your business?
Right.
So first and foremost, I called it Scale Up Your Business. So it's, it's not the most creative name, but you know what, if you're an entrepreneur and you're stuck in struggle zone, and a lot of them are, because scaling is quite difficult, it's a different identity that you need to go through that journey, then people can find me easily. So first and foremost, if you want to scale up your business, come to Scale Up Your Business. So that helped. The second thing is more subliminal. So when people listen to the podcast, I can talk about marketing strategies. I can talk about operations and finance and how you raise investment, how you sell your business. All of those mechanics are there, but everyone talks about that. Every business podcast talks about that. I spend a lot of time on the identity of who you need to become as a leader. I talk a lot about the mindset of growth, the idea about how you show up. I talk about culture a lot, exactly what we spoke about before, because it's things like that that make the biggest difference. I say 70 to 80% of business success is mindset. It's how you show up. It's what you believe. And so quite a lot of what my content is drawing that out of really interesting people. So I've had some amazingly successful entrepreneurs on my podcast. And what I do is I manage to weave out of them that sort of thread of success. So a lot of what people are getting is the playbook from the people who have done it, as well as all the mechanics and the tips and things that you can apply to your business. So it's the mix of those. So that content play has made a big difference in terms of its success as well.
Yeah. And here's the thing, you start to hear the same things, don't you? It's that, it's a common thing. You repeat things. Oh, I'm going to write that down. I heard that more than once. And then eventually you hear the same things, and it's like rarely anything new. You just got to put it into play and then be consistent, frequent, and in mass quantities. Right.
I had a couple of people on recently, and I asked the same question. What are the principles of success? And I'll give you the 4 that I've heard the most out of 95 odd interviews now. Right. First one is focus. Do one thing. Do one thing really bloody well. Don't get distracted. That saying, he who chases 2 rabbits catches none. Focus on one thing. Right. The second thing is be disciplined. If you're going to say you're going to do something, do it. Don't just muck around. Don't waste anybody's time. right? Then it's about being consistent. So I think definitely the success of the podcast for me is I have never missed an episode. I never will, right? And then the last one is be hugely productive. Hugely productive. We've only got, X number of minutes in a day. Don't waste them. Get very intentional about how you spend your time. And if you put those things together, none of that's hard. None of that's hard to get, right? We all get it, but no one does it. No one does it. And that's the difference. It's about stepping up and executing. That's the main thing.
Yeah. And then you mentioned leadership. And so that's the other issue. A lot of people do not want to step up and be a leader. One, they may not know how, but even if they know how, like you just said here, they don't do it. And I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that once you step up, the eyeballs are on you, because that's what it means to be a leader. People are watching you and looking to you for advice or for guidance, right? And a lot of people don't want those eyeballs on them. They don't want that accountability. They don't want to be in a position of responsibility, and they don't want to have people checking them to make sure they're doing things the right way.
Well, the key thing that underpins that I've kind of recognized is a lot of people don't think they're good enough. So as soon as you put yourself out there into that place where you can be judged, and this is the funny thing, by people who don't really matter, right? You don't know these people, right? So it shouldn't matter. But of course, the human psychology is that I don't want to be that person. But what they realize is if they don't do that, if they don't put themselves out there, they're probably not going to get to where they want to be. So it's this weird vicious circle that you got to step into that and make that choice, step into that fear. Otherwise, you're potentially going to have a life of mediocrity.
And the other thing is, people don't think about us as much as we think they do. Like, we're inside of our own heads all the time, right? So we think, oh, so-and-so's thinking of me. This person's thinking, everybody's thinking about me. And it's so untrue, man. And matter of fact, if you can get to the point where everybody's thinking about you, your business will scale by itself. So
this is the I had a couple of issues with it when I first started. I thought, what are people going to say? And I get battered by my old world. So the world of private equity is quite conservative. It's quite relentless. It's lots of people in suits with spreadsheets, right? And to have a private equity guy putting himself out on a podcast, that's kind of like a massive sin, right? Yeah. But I don't care anymore. There's a point where you get so much positive feedback. I get stuff every day, I'm sure you do, where people, you're getting a message out there, it's changing lives. And I look at those things and I think, how could I not do that? Because that's so much more important than getting in my own head about, what someone says. It's just not even in the same ballpark.
Yep. And there's a really freeing feeling when you don't care about what people think and what they say. And it's not just about the public or the haters or anything like that, but it's about like you said, the private equity people that have some clout and have some power, right? But still not, hey man, I'm good. Yeah. So I love that, man. I love it. So talk to us about your program, the Scale Up program.
Yeah, so I've got a number of different things. So Scale Up Your Business. I mean, a lot of people ask me to launch an accelerator program. And so we did that. What we didn't do though, is like a lot of people have programs where they're kind of just online courses and you have to go there and listen to stuff. And listen, not to criticize those too much, but I found that wasn't enough. So we offer a 16-week live online masterclass where I teach it. I have some experts who come and teach it. And we go through the full gamut of what it means to scale a business, everything from how do you create products and services that really solve problems. How do you get predictability in your sales and marketing so you don't have to worry about getting leads, you're actually creating customers. We talk about mass automation, leverage processes, all that sort of thing. And we talk about how you can actually buy businesses for using little of your own money. And so, one of the quickest ways to scale is, let's say you've got a really good business and you want to double your sales, go and buy your competitor. And right now, with all the stuff that's been going on recently, there is businesses out there that are so lower in value than what they were even a few months ago, that you can literally double your business with a few conversations. But a lot of people just don't know the playbook. So we set that up, we run it. We're actually launching it in the US literally in the next couple of weeks. So it's coming. And we've been running it for the last 12 months. And it's been transformational. One guy who came on recently, he was, again, this is through all the uncertainty, his business was falling backwards. He's literally doubled his revenue growth year on year in 3 months since doing the program. And it's a combination mindset, us helping mentor on the side, but it's also the fact that it's you're in a group of people and you can work on that accountability. So we're very proud of that, and it's come off the back of the podcast and come off the back of building this community.
It's awesome, man. So what's the difference, or how important is it to maximize the productivity and revenue from the people that you currently have before you add anybody else to the mix?
You mean through acquisition and that sort of thing?
acquisition or individual, employee hires or what have you.
Yeah, my belief is this, right? And this is where a lot of, I said a lot of the secret of scale up is the identity of the leader, and I don't mean that in a passive way. There's a very action orientated stuff that needs to happen. So the first thing that happens is those people haven't got a vision. So they get so stuck in their own heads that they're thinking very short term. They're not thinking about what the business needs to become, and then they don't know where they are. They don't measure stuff. And so this is the piece to answer your question. If you don't measure your business, if you haven't got metrics, literally running through your business, then you're flying blind. You're going to end up somewhere, but it's probably not going to be the place that you want to be. So what I do is I think of scale up as numbers. So I'm looking and thinking, okay, so how many customers, what's the productivity of the people here? How many salespeople I need? What level of marketing do I need to do here to get a return on investment? What does my cost to serve need to look like over here? And so the decision to then bring people in or to invest is very easy because the metrics tell me the answer.
Right.
And I look at that stuff on a daily and weekly basis. Some people think that's really like hardcore. But I tell you what, if you can get that built in to that sort of methodology into your business, scaling doesn't become something that's random. It becomes something that's predictable.
Right. Yep. I love it. I mean, I look at my numbers. I look at my numbers like at least hourly. We have 30 plus employees in our mortgage company, and I look at it like that. And just, I'm kind of obsessive with it, and we send them out constantly to everybody. So it's very transparent. Everybody knows where they are. And if they haven't, credit pulls, you got to pull credit to be able to take a loan application and so on. And if you're not doing that first part of the sales cycle, that you're not going to have loans closing. So it's very simple to read. And then we can, we get on people right away. Like, hey, is there an issue? Are you engaged today?
Before, culture, behaviors, and metrics are probably the things that underpin scale up, because you've got people who are focused, they're doing the right things. You've got the metrics to show what the performance is across all the areas, and then your ability to scale, which means obviously my definition of scale is building teams, because you can't scale just with two people in a shed. You need to start to employ people, you need to have suppliers, but everything is underpinned by those things. As soon as you get that in place, and a lot of entrepreneurs don't get this, then all of a sudden you start to see that march towards millions or whatever your objective are, because it just becomes a direct pattern, just something you need to execute against.
Yeah. So just to give you an idea where we just came from, we were doing somewhere around 4 to 5 million in loan volume in our small group. And that was about a year ago. And then we just went to 18.9 something in March during COVID. And then not only just broke that record, but blew it away and did 32 million in April. And so we've seen some magic via scaling up and culture and accountability and all that. And it's a situation now where I can't keep it to myself. It's like, I want to share with everyone. You know what I mean? I don't want to just keep this secret here and then work it here. I want to do it here and then show other people. And I'm thinking that's what you went through as well. That feeling of, hey, I got to share this with the world and help other people. This is too good.
Well, yeah. Well, for me, it came back to the thing is like, I thought, when I sat down and I kind of reflected on my journey and what I'd gone through, I thought, I'm sitting on a mountain of wealth here, mountain of knowledge. And, I can't keep it to myself. If I can inspire 1 million people to grow their businesses, to create freedom, to build their own wealth, to live life on their terms, which also then starts to change, communities and geographies, right? Imagine what that does to the world. That changes everything. So if I can play even a small part in that, which was my original thought, which obviously now has become bigger,
right.
Then you know what? I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be content, and I know that I'm living to my standard, which is to be the best version of myself, and continually strive towards that.
And how big is your team, the podcast part?
Yeah, so I have I'm into mass efficiency, so high effectiveness, mass efficiency. So I've got a team of VAs out of the Philippines. So I have 5 over there, and they run the whole social media piece. So I have one person in the UK who heads up that team, and then I have specialists in the Philippines who do the rest. Then I've got, as I said, an outsourced production agency of 3 people. And then I've got some other people who kind of help me source guests or kind of just manage the process and make sure of that. So it's around about 10 people in total.
Yeah. Yep. People don't realize that. They don't realize it, and I love it. I like them to think that C-Roc's doing it all, man. When do you sleep? When do you sleep, dude?
Well, the hardest bit, and you must get this right, as your audience gets bigger and your profile gets bigger, it's going back and engaging with these people. Right. So I did a podcast, when was it, end of last year, US podcast, and it was on buying and selling businesses for no money down. Right. Pretty interesting topic. No one knows how to do it. I just said, this is how you do it. 67 inbound inquiries of how the hell do you do that? That's alchemy, Nick. what have you just said? And that was over the weekend. That was like on a Sunday. And I'm like, I can't respond quickly to that. So I had to have teams of people, and it gets a bit difficult. But I used to also jump on a phone call with anyone who wants to have a phone call. 15 minutes, I'll just try and nudge you forward in your business. And it was part of my giving back. I still love doing that, but I can't do it anymore. Not to the same way, because just too many people are contacting me. So I'm working out my own systems and processes around this as I'm scale up your business.
And listen, if you ever need someone to talk about it that can relate to that, you can call me anytime, man, because I feel like the same thing. I'm talking to my wife the other day and I look at my phone. I literally had to get 2 phones because I can't keep up with all the notifications at the top of the screen, because we're in all the different platforms because we want to get out there and be omnipresent. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, how does someone like, you said Tony Robbins, like, how does somebody handle somebody? He can't have an Instagram account that he actually looks at.
No, listen, I have people who are on every different platforms. I've got a specialist on Instagram, specialist on Facebook. I do a lot of my LinkedIn stuff myself, but I have got a person who helps me with that as well. But, I would say probably every third message I'm still engaging with. So still quite a lot. But there are some times on my Facebook community now, which has got stuff going on all over the place, I don't have enough time to engage. But I try and do something every day, at least on every platform.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. All right, let's talk about the running, man. Because listen, I'll run 3-4 miles, and then my something hurts in my lower half. I don't know where or why. And then I'm just like, dude, all right, I got enough cardio for today. So what makes you want to run further than that? One, and then what help? Like, I know there's tricks and things to break through barriers and all that, but to me, it's not like my legs hurt too bad. It's more like my feet or the rub, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like, talk about how you got into it and then how you pushed through that.
Yeah, let me kind of give you the background of that, because it goes back a bit, but it's quite an important part of the journey, actually, particularly for this podcast, right? What am I made of? So my dad left when I was 2 years of age, and he came back into my life in my 30s. So he wasn't around for a long period of time. So my grandfather more or less raised me. He was like the male influence, and he had a double bypass with his heart back in early 1980s. And then he was the first Australian to run a marathon after having double bypass surgery. And he did that in 1984. So I was 10 years old. I remember going to the race, and no one thought he was going to survive because no one had ever done that, right? So I remember seeing him do this. So I had this kind of imprint in my head of this amazing feat. I mean, the guy was an absolute legend, right? And so he passed away. He was a big influence in my life. And I started running after that in my sort of 20s. And there's 2 things. Partly it was to remember him and to connect with him, because it's a thing to do. And I wanted to show some respect to what he gave me. That's what I thought it was. But what I found out is I think I was running away a little bit from a sort of past life and all the stuff that I didn't want to face. And so, this is going to sound quite crazy, but I ran the ultra marathons, the 100-mile races, because I wanted to test something that I thought I would fail at. And failing in this it's really funny, right? So you never want to start something and not finish it. It's not about winning the race. It's about participating and getting to the end, because you've got to manage so many different emotions, and physical, mental. But the thing about it is, finishing a race like that is not a foregone conclusion, right? You're going into it, it feels impossible, because in many cases you're going to go through pain and levels of challenge that no one ever sees. It's really, really hardcore. So I put myself through that pain because I was running away from a life that I didn't particularly enjoy. And I put myself through that because I wanted to test what I was made of. And I wanted to kind of feel present and alive. Because when you're in the middle of a 100-mile race at 50 or 60 miles and everything's falling apart, you've got blisters everywhere, your back's out, your knees sink, you are 100% present. And getting through that, and when you get to the end, the euphoria of getting through something like that is like nothing I've ever experienced. And what I've done, I think, is I've trained myself that anything that's tough, scaling a business, dealing with difficult people, it's a walk in the park, because do you know what? I've gone and done that. And for me, it's part of my identity now. It's something that I can't, even though I've had the injuries, probably like you've described, it kind of defines a lot of who I am.
So did you finish the first one that you entered?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I ran my first marathon at 21, and I'm still running, marathons now. I'm not doing as many ultras as I used to. I did most of my ultras in my 30s. But yeah, the first ultra marathon I did was 50 miles, and it was through the night. And it was a really funny one. I was getting chased by a guy dressed up as the Grim Reaper. Like they do these kind of weird things, right? So you got to go, and that's kind of scary enough because it literally goes for like 12, 13 hours. Anyway, my friends dropped me off at the race. They said, "You're never going to do this. I'd never run any further than a marathon before. And this is like a double marathon."
Yeah.
No, I did it. And it was hard and, whatever else. But afterwards, I thought, you know what, I changed. I thought, you know what, anything that someone throws at me now, I'm just going to go with it.
Now, does a regular marathon feel simple and easy now that you run it in ultra?
Yeah, I was doing it. I was doing a marathon every weekend on a Sunday as a training run.
But you know what? Hard. That's me projecting my insecurities in running on you when I say, wow, you know what I mean? That's like, I probably could do it. Well, I know I could do it if I put my mind to it, but it's just, to me, it's just mind blowing to do that. And Jesse Itzler does them too. You know Jesse Itzler?
Yeah. And there's a guy called Zach Bitt who just broke the 100-mile record on a treadmill. And if you look at the pace, he did 100 miles in something like 12 hours, which is, 4-minute kilometers or something ridiculous.
Wow.
So, everyone, obviously there's a thing here where some people are more talented in terms of they have the physiology to be able to be better runners, right? But I think everyone has the mindset to do this. So everyone has the ability to do it, but the mindset is the thing that makes the difference. And what I found is I look at mindset like a muscle, right? The more that you can challenge yourself, the more that you can step up to things that feel impossible from the beginning, but once you overcome them, you're lifting yourself up a level. And that resilience is massively powerful in anything you want to cope with in life. But I look at it from a business perspective, and the reason I can go and coach, these people now who are struggling with scale up and in many cases just push them forward through this really tough struggle zone, this wilderness of scale up, is because I've done these bloody races and I don't think anything's impossible.
Right.
Because that's my mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, Nick, how can my audience contact you, engage with you?
Yeah. Well, listen, as I said, you can reach out to me. Firstly, have a listen to the podcast. If you've got a business and you want to learn some different things around scale up, come and listen to Scale Up Your Business. You can find that on iTunes and Spotify. The community, Scale Up Your Business on Facebook. So we've got about 1,500 people in there now. It's a really vibrant community of business owners. But if people want to reach out to me directly, reach out on Facebook, LinkedIn, or my website, which is nickcbradley.com. As I said, I always like to have a conversation when I can with people. So if people reach out and they want to have a conversation, I still offer that. All I say is sometimes it pushes out a little bit in terms of time, but I'm happy to serve your community, C-Roc, in any way I can. So happy to offer that to people as well.
I appreciate it, Nick, and I appreciate you being here. And if there's anything your boy C-Roc can do for you, all you got to do is shoot me a message, call me, however you got to do it. You can find me. I'm pretty easily to find. So I appreciate you, man. And thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, no worries, man. Thank you very much.
You guys have been listening to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy, Mike C-Roc, and our guest, Nick Bradley. And guys, thanks for listening. Please tell your friends and family about us. Go subscribe on podcast platforms like iTunes, Spotify, or go, if you want to watch these, check out the YouTube channel, Mike C-Roc Scirocco. Until next time, I'm your boy C-Roc.